Philadelphia, autumn 1970, 3 o'clock in the morning. In the dim light of a 24-hour pawn shop stands a man whose shadow on the wall trembles as if in a fever. He smells of cheap bourbon and stale sweat, and his eyes dart around, searching for invisible demons. A heavy velvet bundle is placed upon the grimy glass counter. The pawnbroker, accustomed to stolen toasters and wedding rings, lazily unfurls the fabric and freezes. His pupils dilate. Before him lies gold, real, heavy gold, with an engraving that every child on the planet knows. It is the heavyweight championship belt, the holy grail of sports. The owner looks up at the shaking addict. "Do you realize they'll kill you for this, kid?" The man doesn't answer. He only wheezes, "500. Give me $500. The deal takes less than a minute. The man grabs the crumpled bills and vanishes into the rain to buy heroin, leaving the legacy of the greatest to gather dust among old guitars. You think this was an enemy of Muhammad Ali? Or a desperate thief who broke into his room? No. This was the only man Ali allowed to call him Shorty. Drew Bundini Brown. The man who stood in the corner of the ring. The man who came up with the phrase, "float like a butterfly, sting like a bee." And the most terrifying part, this was the man Ali loved more than his own brother. But why? Why did the most disciplined athlete in history, a man who neither drank nor smoked, keep a full-blown addict and pimp by his side? The answer to this question will overturn your understanding of the nature of success. We are used to seeing Ali as a shining monument. But every monument has a shadow. Bundini was that shadow. Pay attention to one detail that biographers often miss. In old training tapes, when Ali is working the heavy bag, Bundini is always standing nearby, clutching a tattered notebook covered in scribbles. Remember that notebook. It will play a fatal role in our story. But later. For now, back to the catastrophe. The morning after the belt was sold, the training camp in Deer Lake. The silence is so heavy, you can hear the water dripping from the tap. The belt is gone. Everyone knows who did it. Angelo Dundee, the head trainer, paces the gym in a rage. He demands they call the police. He demands they throw this parasite out for good. Logic is on their side. Bundini is a carcinogenic tumor. He steals money. He breaks the training regimen. He sold the symbol of their victory for a fix. It seems the solution is obvious. Get rid of the dead weight, and you'll soar higher. At that moment, the door opens. In walks Bundini. He looks like a corpse that someone forgot to bury. He knows what he has done. He doesn't ask for forgiveness. He just stands there, awaiting his sentence. The guards take a step forward. Dundee is already opening his mouth to say, "Get out!" But then, something happens that breaks the brains of everyone present. Ali, who had been sitting in the corner with a stone face, stands up. He approaches the man who just spat into the soul of the entire team. The air in the room is electric. Everyone expects a blow. The right cross that knocked out champions should now take the traitor's head off. Ali puts his hand on Bundini's shoulder, and he says a phrase that makes Dundee's jaw drop. "I hope you got a good price, Drew." Do you think this was an act of Christian forgiveness? Do you think Ali was a saint? You're wrong. It was a cold, pragmatic calculation bordering on madness. At that moment, Ali realized a terrifying truth he hid from the world. He didn't need a good assistant. He didn't need peace. Ali fed on chaos. Bundini was his stress generator, his personal shaman who wound his nerves to the breaking point, keeping his adrenaline boiling. Without Bundini, Ali was just an athlete. With Bundini, he became a prophet. But there was a problem. Ali thought he controlled this demon. He thought Bundini was his pet monkey, entertaining the public with poems and antics. He was wrong. When Bundini sold the belt, he wasn't just looking for money. It was a scream. It was a warning. That crumpled notebook in his pocket already contained the script for their future, and it wasn't a script for victory. Bundini knew something even Ali didn't. Zaire was ahead of them. George Foreman was ahead. the monster who could break ribs with a single look. And Bundini understood that without him, without his voodoo and his madness, Ali wouldn't survive there. Selling the belt was a test. Bundini was checking, was Ali ready to forgive the loss of gold to save his soul? Ali passed the test. He kept the traitor on the team. But he didn't notice how something in Bundini's eyes changed. Instead of gratitude, there was darkness. Bundini realized if he was forgiven for this, he would be forgiven for everything. And he decided to raise the stakes. If the belt was worth $500, then what is the life of the king worth? The game was just beginning, and the champion wasn't the one writing the rules. Do you think that after the return of the stolen belt and the shocking forgiveness, peace settled over the team? You are deeply mistaken. In fact, this incident was only the first drop of poison in the well from which Ali drank every day. Angelo Dundee, the brilliant boxing tactician, trained Ali's muscles and reflexes, but he couldn't train his demons. For that, he needed Bundini. And as 1974 drew closer, a terrifying truth became more obvious. Ali had become addicted to his friend's madness. Transport yourself to Zaire, the rumble in the jungle. The heat is so intense that the asphalt melts, and the air is saturated with moisture and fear. George Foreman is not just an opponent. He is a walking death sentence. He destroyed Frazier and Norton in 2 rounds. Ali was 32 years old. He was slower, weaker, and seemingly doomed. The whole world was preparing obituaries. The atmosphere in the camp was that of a funeral parlor. No one would look Ali in the eye. No one, except Bundini. This is where the real psychological game begins, the one they didn't show on TV. You saw the confident Ali shouting at the cameras? That was a mask. Inside, he was trembling, and Bundini knew it. He saw what the champion's dark sunglasses hid, but instead of calming his friend, Bundini did the opposite, something that would make you question his sanity. He amplified the paranoia. Every morning, Bundini began with a ritual. He didn't check the gloves. He pulled out that same crumpled, dirty notebook, covered in scribbles, and began reading Ali's strange, broken poems. It didn't sound like motivation. It sounded like the ravings of a mad preacher. God is watching, champ. The coffins are open. They want your blood. Why say such things to a man who is already walking to the scaffold? It seemed Bundini wanted to break Ali completely. Dundee was furious. He tried to ban Bundini from Ali's room, screaming that he was poisoning the fighter's mind. You would likely agree with Dundee. Why frighten a man who is already terrified? But here is the turn that changes everything. One night, while the camp slept, one of the sparring partners saw a light in Ali's bungalow. He peered through the window, expecting to see Ali praying or studying tapes of Foreman's fights. What he saw made him freeze. Ali wasn't praying. He was sitting on the floor, listening to Bundini's whisper, and he was crying. Tears were streaming down the face of the greatest. Do you think this was a moment of weakness? The moment Bundini finally broke him? It was exactly the opposite. At the very second the sparring partner wanted to intervene, Ali raised his head. There was no more fear in his eyes. There was a cold, murderous rage. And then the puzzle pieces fit. Bundini wasn't frightening Ali. He was processing his fear. He used his insane texts and that cursed notebook to pull the horror out of Ali, to materialize it and turn it into fuel. Bundini wasn't just a jester. He was an emotional lightning rod. He knew, if Ali kept the fear inside, Foreman would kill him. So Bundini forced Ali to live through that horror before the fight, in the safety of his bungalow. It was brilliant, yet brutal psychotherapy. But all magic has a price. Bundini was absorbing that fear into himself. While Ali grew stronger, Bundini was falling apart. Did you notice how Bundini looked in those days? In the archive footage, he is always sweaty, with a wandering gaze, his shirt unbuttoned, his hands shaking. We thought it was the drugs. Partially, yes. But there was another reason. He was burning up so that Ali could shine. He took upon himself all the filth, all the doubts, all the darkness surrounding this fight. But when there was almost nothing left until the fight, the system failed. The mechanism overheated. Bundini, this architect of Ali's soul, suddenly vanished. He simply evaporated. No one could find him. Imagine the level of panic. The man who holds the keys to Ali's psyche disappeared just days before the meeting with the most dangerous man on the planet. Ali stopped talking. He walked through the camp like a ghost. Without his shaman, he was vulnerable. And here emerges a detail that makes your skin crawl. A cleaning lady found strange things in Bundini's room. Empty bottles, traces of some powder, and a torn-out page from that very notebook. There were no poems on it. Instead, there was something drawn that looked like a diagram. But not a fight diagram. It looked like a map leading to nowhere. The team decided to hide Bundini's disappearance from the press. They told Ali, "He's just sick. He'll be back soon." But Ali knew the truth. He felt the connection sever. Do you think Ali got angry? No. He was more afraid than he was of Foreman, because he realized Bundini hadn't run away. Bundini had broken under the weight of what he was carrying, and now Ali was left alone with the monster, and his shield had vanished somewhere in the jungles of Zaire. It seemed catastrophe was inevitable, but no one knew that Bundini was preparing his final, most insane trick, designed to work precisely in his absence, the locker room of the stadium in Kinshasa. 4 a.m. The air here is so humid and thick you don't breathe it, you swallow it. Outside, beyond the concrete walls, a 60,000-strong crowd roars, chanting, "Ali Bomaye! Ali, kill him!" But inside, there is a silence like a vacuum. It is not the silence of concentration. It is the silence of a morgue. Everyone on the team knows the statistics. George Foreman kills everything he touches. Angelo Dundee, his face the color of chalk, methodically tapes Ali's hands, but his fingers tremble almost imperceptibly. Ali sits on the bench, staring at a single point. His gaze is empty. At this moment, he is not the greatest. He is a man who knows that in an hour he might be carried out of here feet first. Something is missing, or someone. The seat of the chief motivator is empty, and that void weighs heavier on his shoulders than the upcoming fight. Suddenly the door bursts open with a crash, slamming against the wall. Everyone flinches as if at a gunshot. In the doorway stands Drew Bundini Brown. Did you expect a triumphant return? A hero bursting in with a flag? Forget it. Standing before them was a scarecrow. His clothes were crumpled and covered in mud stains. His eyes were bloodshot, and his lips were bitten raw. He looked as if he had spent the last 48 hours in hell rather than a hotel. He reeked of something sour and sharp, a mixture of cheap alcohol and animal fear. The guards instantly tensed. One of the bodyguards took a step forward to intercept this madman. Angelo Dundee already had his mouth open to scream, "Get him out of here!" Logic screamed that letting this unstable addict near Ali a minute before he went out was suicide. He would destroy the mindset. He would bring chaos. But then Ali raises his hand. The gesture is sharp, like the crack of a whip. "Don't touch him," he says quietly. Ali stands up. He approaches the man who disappeared at the most critical moment, the man who looked like a walking catastrophe. Do you think Ali started asking questions? Where were you? Why did you leave me? No. Ali looked into Bundini's insane eyes and saw there what was hidden from everyone else. He didn't see weakness. He saw the reflection of his own death, which Bundini had already lived through for him. Bundini hadn't run away. He had gone into the darkness to meet Foreman's demons face to face. With trembling hands, Bundini reaches into his pocket. Everyone freezes. A knife? A gun? Drugs? He pulls out that same crumpled notebook we spoke of, but he doesn't open it. He clenches it in his fist and presses it against Ali's forehead. Their foreheads touch. It looks not like a coach's instruction, but like the transmission of a virus. Bundini begins to whisper, quietly at first, then faster, more rhythmically. No one present could make out the words, but the rhythm was unmistakable. It wasn't a boxing plan. It was a voodoo incantation. You are a ghost, champ. You can't hit a ghost. A ghost walks through walls. At that moment, a transformation occurs that gives the witnesses goosebumps. Ali's shoulders straighten. The emptiness in his eyes vanishes, replaced by a cold, electric fire. Bundini took his fear. He absorbed it like a sponge. Do you think the drama ends there? Oh no. That was only the introduction. The gong. First round. Ali flies out of the corner and does what no one expected. He attacks Foreman. He hits the monster with a lead right to the head. The arena explodes, but Foreman doesn't fall. He only grows more feral. He moves forward like a tank. And then Ali does the unthinkable. He retreats to the ropes. He covers up in a block and hangs on them, turning into a stationary target. Ali's corner is in horror. Dundee screams, "Get off the ropes! Dance!" The whole world thinks, it's over. Ali gave up. Ali is old. But look at the corner of the ring. Look at Bundini. While Dundee loses his voice, begging Ali to move, Bundini does something strange. He doesn't look at the ring. He looks at the floor, his body shaking in convulsions, his lips moving silently. Do you think he's praying? You're wrong. When the camera catches his face for a second, you see a ghastly smile. Bundini knew the plan. Rope-a-dope. The tactic of rope doping wasn't invented on the fly. It was what was scratched in that dirty notebook. It was a trap. Ali wasn't giving up. He was inviting Foreman into his own hell. Every blow Foreman landed on Ali's body echoed with pain, not in the boxer's body, but in Bundini's body in the corner. It seemed they were connected by an invisible umbilical cord. Ali took the blows physically, but the emotional pain from them was lived through by his shaman. By the fifth round, Foreman began to tire. His arms grew heavy, and at that moment Ali, who had seemed half dead, opened his eyes. He winked at Foreman and whispered, "Is that all you got, George?" In the corner, Bundini stopped shaking. He snapped his head up. His eyes met Ali's across the entire ring. It was a signal, a non-verbal, mystical signal, understood only by the two of them. The moment the victim turns into the hunter. Did you think you knew the end of this story? You've seen the knockout 1,000 times, but you never noticed what was happening behind the back of the falling giant. Because at the very second Ali cocked his hand for the final blow, Bundini in the corner already had his hands in the air before the fist even touched Foreman's jaw. How did he know? How could he know the future a fraction of a second before it happened? The answer lies in that very price he paid with his sanity. The 8th round is over. George Foreman, the invincible monster, lies on the canvas, trying to stand, but his legs no longer obey the laws of physics. The referee counts to 10. The whole world explodes. It's not just noise, it's a sound wave capable of breaking bones. Ali is champion again. People break through the cordons. The ring turns into an ocean of bodies. Everyone wants to touch the new god. In this euphoria, it is easy to lose focus. The cameras are trained on Ali's shining, sweaty face as he screams into the microphones that he has shaken the world again. But if you look away from the spotlights and into the dark corner where the team just stood, you will see a sight that makes your blood run cold. There is no celebration there. There, leaning against the ring post, a man is sliding to the floor. It is Drew Bundini Brown. Do you think he's drunk? Do you think he's high on victory? No. He looks as if every drop of blood has been drained from him. His eyes roll back, and his body is hit by a massive, uncontrollable tremor, like an epileptic seizure. Angelo Dundee and the team doctors, fighting through the crowd, grab him by the arms. They drag him to the locker room, not as a victor, but as a wounded soldier who needs urgent evacuation from the battlefield. And here a question arises that should disturb you. Why does a man who did nothing physical, didn't punch, didn't get hit, just stood in the corner, look worse than the boxer who went through hell? The locker room. The noise of the crowd is muffled here, but the air is still electric with the hysteria of victory. Ali bursts in, surrounded by his entourage. He is the king of the world. He laughs. He dances. But suddenly he stops. He sees Bundini sitting on the bench, wrapped in a towel. He is staring at the wall with a hollow, glassy gaze. Ali gestures for everyone to be quiet. Silence falls over the room like a heavy curtain. Journalists, trainers, hangers-on, everyone freezes. Ali approaches his friend. He kneels before him. At this moment, the template breaks. We are used to thinking Ali is an egocentric who only sees himself. But now he takes Bundini's cold, shaking hands in his own, and then Ali notices it. Bundini's fist is still clenched until the knuckles are white. He is holding that very object that was with him all those weeks. The very dagger we spoke of at the very beginning. A dirty, sweat-soaked wad of paper. Everyone in the room cranes their necks. What is it? A betting slip? A dealer's address? Or that very voodoo spell that broke Foreman's legs? The tension reaches its peak. Ali slowly, finger by finger, pries open his friend's fist. Bundini doesn't resist. He is too weak. The paper falls onto the champion's palm. Ali unfurls it. It is a torn page from a cheap notebook, wet and nearly ripped. There are no diagrams on it. There are no curses. There, among the grease stains and scribbles, is just one word, circled 3 times. God. Do you feel disappointed? Were you expecting mysticism? Wait. In this one word lies the entire tragedy of their relationship. Ali looks at the paper, and his face changes. The smile vanishes. A grimace of pain appears. He understands what we do not. Bundini, this sinner, addict, and liar, had been holding a reminder this entire time, not for Ali, but for himself. He was reminding himself that he served a higher purpose, even when his own life was plummeting into the abyss. He was a lightning rod. He knew Ali couldn't lose because Ali was the chosen one. But for the chosen one to win, someone had to pay the price. Someone had to take on all the filth, all the fear, and all the madness. Ali looks up at Bundini. You knew, he whispers. You knew everything from the start. Bundini finally focuses his gaze. His lips stretch into a crooked, frightening smirk. I told you, champ, he wheezes in a broken voice. We were in hell, but I kept the door open. And at this moment, the viewer realizes a terrifying inversion. We thought Ali was saving Bundini by giving him a job and money. We thought Bundini was a parasite. But look at them now. Ali is fresh. His skin shines. He is full of energy. Bundini looks like a squeezed lemon, like an old man who aged 10 years in a single night. Who was actually the parasite? Who was feeding on whom? Ali used Bundini as an emotional filter. He dumped all his pre-fight horror into him, all his doubts. Bundini processed it, burned up from the inside, but delivered pure confidence to Ali. This wasn't sport. This was a sacrificial ritual. Ali embraces him. He presses Bundini's dirty head to his chest. For the first time, we see tears in the eyes of the greatest after a victory. Not tears of happiness, tears of guilt. He realizes this triumph was bought at the cost of his friend's sanity. But the drama doesn't end with an embrace. When Ali pulls away, Bundini suddenly grabs his arm. The grip is iron, terrifying. He pulls Ali toward him and whispers something in his ear that makes the champion recoil. We don't hear the words, but we see Ali's reaction. He looks frightened. What did Bundini say? It wasn't a congratulation. It was a prophecy. God gave us everything today, champ, but God is coming soon to collect the debt. Ali looks at the crumpled piece of paper with the word God in his hand and realizes Bundini no longer controls reality. Reality has broken him. The celebration continues. Champagne flows like a river, but in the corner of the locker room, in the shadow of triumph, Ali feels the cold breath of the future. He won the fight, but it seems he has begun to lose the war for the soul of his only true friend. And the most terrifying part, he knows he can't stop it. 13 years have passed since that night in Zaire. 13 years, during which the world changed beyond recognition, but the debt Bundini whispered about in the locker room has finally been presented for payment. Los Angeles, 1987. A sterile ward in a hospital for the poor. The smell of chlorine and hopelessness. On the cot lies a man you wouldn't recognize. This is not the energetic shaman who shouted, "Float like a butterfly." This is a withered husk. Drew Bundini Brown is paralyzed after a massive stroke. He cannot move. The most terrifying thing, he cannot speak. The man whose voice constructed reality for the greatest is now locked inside his own head, doomed to eternal silence. The doctors say he understands nothing, but if you look into his eyes, you see not a void, but a scream. He is waiting. Whom is he waiting for? Family. He has none. He traded everyone for Ali. Creditors? He gave everything away. He is waiting for the only man for whom he burned his life. And then footsteps echo in the corridor. Slow, shuffling footsteps. The door opens. In walks Muhammad Ali. But this is not the Ali we remember either. His hands tremble. Parkinson's has already begun its destructive work. His face, once the most animated face on the planet, has turned into a mask. Two ruined titans look at each other, and here something happens that makes the heart clench. You think Ali came to say goodbye? No, he came to apologize. Ali sits on the edge of the cot. He takes Bundini's lifeless hand into his own trembling palms. The vibration from Ali's hands is transmitted to Bundini's body, and it feels as if they are in the ring again, back in that insane rhythm. Ali leans toward his friend's ear. The nurses in the corridor cry watching this, but they don't hear what he is saying. You think he says thank you? Too cliché for their story. Ali whispers, "You won, Bundini. You took my pain, but you couldn't take my illness." At this moment, you should feel the shock of realization. Throughout his career, we thought Bundini was a parasite, clinging to Ali's fame. We thought Ali was the victim of a toxic friendship. But look at the scene from a different angle. Flip the chessboard. Bundini wasn't a parasite. He was a sin-eater. In ancient cultures, there were people who ate ritual food from a corpse to take the sins of the deceased upon themselves. Bundini did this while alive. He took the fear, paranoia, madness, and filth of the boxing business, passing them through himself so that Ali could remain a pure symbol of light. Bundini drank, used drugs, and went mad because one man's psyche could not withstand the pressure intended for two. Ali understood this. He knew that the stroke that broke Bundini was a blow intended for him, Ali. Bundini took it upon himself, just as he took Foreman's mental blows in Zaire. Bundini's eyes grow moist. A single tear rolls down his cheek. He can't nod. He can't squeeze the hand in return. But Ali understands. He pulls something small from his pocket. It's not money. It's not a medal. It's an old, worn scrap of paper, the very one with the word God on it. He places it in the palm of his paralyzed friend and closes his fingers with his own hand. "You're free now, Shorty," Ali says. A few weeks later, Bundini would die. Ali would live much longer, but he would never be the same again. Without his evil genius, without his shadow, he would finally turn into a living monument, locked in the silence of his own disease. This story is not about boxing. It is about symbiosis, about the fact that a great light always casts a great shadow, and woe to the one who agrees to become that shadow. They created a legend, but the price of admission into history turned out to be higher than any purse. We admire the butterfly, but we forget that for its flight, someone had to crawl in the mud. Now stop and ask yourself a question that will haunt you tonight before you sleep. History loves winners, and we all want to be in Ali's place. No, hand on heart, could you have become that great if you knew that for it to happen, your best friend would have to burn to ashes? Or perhaps you see yourself in the role of Bundini, the man who is ready to destroy himself for the greatness of another? Whose side are you on in this tragedy? The side of the genius who used his friend as fuel, or the side of the madman who voluntarily jumped into the fire? Write in the comments, does the end justify such means, and did you notice the exact moment when Bundini realized he was doomed? I will be waiting for your answers below.